Intoxication does not constitute a mental disease or defect. But it does not preclude one either. It does not remove the possibility that someone has a genuine mental disease or defect simply because they were intoxicated, and that may also be a consideration. Medical records document that Brian reported blackouts at least as early as May 2015. In May of 2015, Brian was under no criminal investigation. He had no pending charges. He had no reason to want to convince anyone that he was in fact blacking out, losing gaps of time, becoming disoriented from reality. But that's what he told his doctors. That's the concern, at least part of it, that he brought to them. Unless the state wants you to believe that Brian Fatoff is some sort of a mastermind who could foresee the series of circumstances that brought him here before you today, it would be virtually impossible to think that he set this up. That he went to doctors 7 months in advance to start laying the foundation for some scheme or for some false mental illness. He went there because he had genuine symptoms. He had genuine concern. None of the doctors who we had heard reference to their reports found that he did not have a mental illness or disorder. Their opinion was reached that they could not say that he both had a mental illness or disorder, and from their opinion, either was unable to appreciate the wrongfulness of his conduct or conform that conduct with the requirements of the law. Dr. Glassman, in his testimony, admitted that he had, though he talked to Eva Kransky, did not really ask her details about these alleged blackouts. I find that problematic. That's one of Brian's chief concerns or chief statements about what he recalls from this incident. And it's at least partially consistent with established medical records that Dr. Glassman also said that he reviewed, where this complaint, this problem, the foundation was laid months and months before he ever had any sort of an issue with Vance Dalton. We heard testimony in phase 1 that the issue began largely around the time he was arrested for OWI in August. That's when the animosity began to build between Brian and Vance. Yet, at least 3, if not more, months prior to that, he had reported having these problems, having anxiety, having blackouts, losing periods of time. Dr. Glassman did not seek any details on that. Why? I can't tell you. I don't know. What would his report have been had he gotten the details that you received from Eva? I don't know. But it's important to think about that. In your role as a fact finder, in your role as determining what is the credible evidence, determine what evidence was there presented that was not considered by the doctor. And as the court said, you are not required to reach his same conclusion. You're required to take the evidence and apply it to the standard of the law. And as you do so, I believe you will find that Brian both suffered from a mental disease at the time on December 5th, 2015. And that mental disease significantly impacted and was made him substantially incapable of appreciating the wrongfulness of his conduct. The testimony we heard from Eva is that this was a pattern. It's not something he created for this case. It's not an excuse that was just cooked up. It's a genuine, ongoing medical health or mental health issue. It is not a free pass. It is not a way out of accountability. for someone to be found NGI. I would encourage you to be mindful of how a desire for punishment or traditional accountability might influence your thinking. How it might keep you from reaching conclusions that the evidence would otherwise support that you reach. If you find him NGI, he will be held accountable in the way that our society and our state has decided is most appropriate, by a commitment to the Department of Health Services and placement in institution. And in that light, and with your reason and common sense, I know that as you reassess the evidence presented to you here this morning, you will reach the conclusion that Mr. Fatoff, Brian Fatoff, is not responsible due to a mental disease or defect.